For quite some time now, we've been discussing exciting new upcoming chapters in the MCU. The multiverse, Young Avengers, the Thunderbolts/Dark Avengers. And finally, after taking a ridiculously long break because of the pandemic, the MCU is finally starting to lurch forward. And we're seeing all those things come true. And as we do, new corners are starting to come into focus, and I have some new tea for us finally to discuss. Oh, I'm excited. I heard this from my sources over the weekend, and I was like, this is good stuff. So I can't wait to discuss this with you. And please, of course, as always, share your own thoughts down below. Now, this new corner of the MCU, wouldn't you know, it looks a heck of a lot like the failed Dark Universe from Universal. So another studio can get hit hard by Marvel. Woo! Careful, if you swing and you hit enough people, you can make a lot of enemies. But, I don't know. In these cases, I think these studios were so slow to act that they gave Marvel the time to catch up with them. So anyway, we've got vampires, werewolves, and the supernatural. Oh my. Yes, we're starting to get a lot of chatter about these new characters, and I'm hearing that this will be another MCU grouping, which will kick off with Disney Plus's Moon Knight. I think many of us were like, how is Moon Knight going to fit in with the rest of the MCU? Well, he's going to have his own corner of it. And this corner will include Werewolf by Night, Blade, and I'm also hearing Man-Thing. That's something I can add to the discussion. The Swamp Thing show, by the way, was so good. Canceled by Warner Brothers because they didn't have any faith in it. They didn't realize it was a good show. I was talking to people at the time and they were like, is this good? And I'm like, it's real good. But they just didn't, because again, a lot of people there just don't know the material particularly well. So canceled, even though everybody thought it was the best, in many ways, the best thing that they put out on, DC Universe. It was temporarily revived for, I think it was the CW, right? But then it faded away. And now Marvel, because that was a while ago, and now Marvel is once again going to swoop in and take advantage of the opening, just like they did with Captain Carter and Wonder Woman. Again, these, Dark Universe, Swamp Thing, Wonder Woman, these things were were introduced to the public and were liked years ago. Well, Universal's original monsters. The Dark Universe never got off to a good start. But anyway, it's not like Marvel swooped in right away. There was like a long period, and now Marvel's coming in, and I guess those studios shouldn't have waited so long to, revive, to try again, or change what was working in the case of Wonder Woman. By the way, also in the comics, Man-Thing and Swamp Thing actually debuted the same year. So much overlap in Marvel and DC over the years with very similar characters. But as I told you with John Carter and Superman, what matters is who gets to the general public first. That's who everybody believes was the original, even though that's not always necessarily the case, when you get down to it. So Swamp Thing, nobody knows what Swamp Thing is really. So Man-Thing's going to come in, and it sucks for Swamp Thing. Anyway, so I'm going to tell you in this video is what I'm hearing, and then I'm going to piece it together with some other rumors that are percolating while adding my own theories and observations. And again, I can't wait to hear what you think down below. Now, a picture leaked the other day of Moon Knight, the picture that shall not be discussed, but was seen by everyone. And you might have noticed that for once, it did not look like a generic MCU costume, which I find pretty interesting. Because that might mean that the MCU Supernatural, which is what I'm going to call it for now, I was going to call it Marvel Horror, but we know that's what they might be doing with the Multiverse of Madness. So I'm going to go with Supernatural. I think that's a better take. So I think that might mean that the MCU Supernatural might have some real flavor to it. This is just the beginning of what's going to be a spicy dish. I like this a lot. Now, the costume does have I can't show it because it's a leaked picture. So, it's property of Disney. And, it's like it's almost exactly like the WandaVision leaks, which I think became very frustrating. So I hope Disney plugged up that hole. But anyway, the costume, for those of you, I think everybody saw it, so you know what I'm talking about. It does have an otherworldly look, which I also think is very promising. It looks like an Egyptian mummy warrior bestowed powers by a god, which to a degree is who Moon Knight is. So I love that. As for Werewolf by Night, he's been in the news recently because Kevin Smith revealed that the MCU told him he could not use the character in his Howard the Duck animated series, since canceled, because they already had plans for Werewolf by Night elsewhere in the MCU. And sure enough, now there are also rumors that Ethan Hawke is playing Werewolf by Night, aka Jack Russell. Get it, like the terrier? That's hilarious. As the antagonist in the Moon Knight Disney Plus show. If true, that's brilliant. That's just absolutely brilliant. Because you have a hero, Moon Knight, who's at his most powerful during the full moon, and then you have a villain who becomes his most powerful the same night. It's poetic. It's so good. Also, Moon Knight's first appearance was in Werewolf by Night number 32. And Kevin Feige loves that kind of comics-accurate storytelling. We're seeing it all the time, particularly in the Disney Plus shows. I think it gives him the ability to make the changes that he does make because he gets the other stuff so right. It's so rooted in comic book lore that you have no choice but to respect it because it's very respectable. All right, so anyway. Those changes to Ms. Marvel, though, I'm going to be curious if he gets away with that. So anyway, in that story, in the Werewolf by Night comic, Moon Knight is actually the enemy when he's first introduced, hired to hunt down Werewolf by Night, who is the hero. But when Moon Knight realizes that his clients who hired him want to use Werewolf by Night as a weapon, he decides to help Werewolf by Night escape and fights alongside him. Moon Knight then went on to become a hero himself and eventually got his own series, which had many iterations. I can see the MCU Supernatural, by the way, with that in mind, having no clear-cut good guys or bad guys, because, Ethan Hawke's been going around telling everybody that he based his character on the show on a cult leader, the Waco cult leader, and that would not be a clear-cut hero, obviously. But I think it would be very interesting to have a place where, you had it was like a world of anti-heroes, especially as Loki became not at all an anti-hero, just a straight hero. If you could have, a bunch of anti-heroes in their own space, that could make things really interesting and unique. Blade, of course, has his own movie coming up. And, we discussed this when director Bassam Tariq was hired in the live stream. And, when one of you pointed that out, that Tariq and Mahershala Ali are Muslim, well, I think there's a chance that Blade could be depicted as Muslim as well. I think that could be very interesting. That would be one of the reasons potentially that they would hire a director like Tariq to help tell that story. And Moon Knight, the Disney Plus series, has a lot of Egyptian talent working on the show behind it in front of the camera. So the MCU Supernatural could also offer important representation in terms of religion and regions of the world so far not explored in the MCU. They had tremendous success with Black Panther. We know that for Black Panther 2, that Namor is going to be based on Mayan culture from South America. So Kevin Feige, I think, is like, let's try and hit all the regions, and this could be his way to hit that part of the globe. Finally, as for Man-Thing, as I said, I hear he'll be joining this group too, and he's already been referenced verbally in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and as one of the champions of Sakaar, immortalized in that, the Mount Rushmore of Sakaar. Other potential characters for the MCU Supernatural could be, and be sure to share your own candidates down below as well. But the ones that I came up with are Elsa Bloodstone, a British monster hunter. She would be great. Many of you pointed out we'd love to see her in the Blade movie, maybe. She could be with any of these characters, though. Ghost Rider and Doctor Strange Universe, his corner of the MCU characters, Brother Voodoo and Nico Minoru. The stage has already been set for the latter two in the first Doctor Strange movie, and Ghost Rider and Brother Voodoo are in fact already rumored for Doctor Strange 2. A very crowded movie. But that's fine. It could be super crowded and then everyone gets scattered to their respective corners of the MCU and Kevin Feige gets down to business telling their stories. Wow. How does this sound to you? I think it sounds wonderfully refreshing for the MCU. And once again, the key to Kevin Feige's ongoing success is that he keeps things fresh by mixing in new genres with traditional comic book stories. So why not go the supernatural route? Universal, again, you were too slow and sloppy. But although Marvel's success here would truly be a huge loss for Universal, as the monster brand has been iconic for them. But I don't know how they'd be able to carve out a space for themselves in the modern space if Marvel is successful here. Thank goodness they're doing a good job with dinosaurs. Or Kevin Feige would be like, get me Kazar. And would be like, are you kidding me? Who knows, though? Kevin Feige, he's running through stuff so fast, he might get there eventually. All right, so what do you think? Although, when is he going to do the X-Men, for Pete's sake? All right, share your thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.